Hi, welcome back. It is March 28th of 2024 and I'm recording in a very rare daytime recording, Monday to Friday anyway, because I'm normally at work. But today I took off because I'm not feeling the greatest when it comes to my anxiety disorder. And I thought that maybe this would be a good time to just talk about my anxiety disorder. I've mentioned it, but I haven't really focused on it as the focal point of a video. Um, but let's talk about it. So, without going into all the details about my childhood and how this all stemmed, I'll do that later. Um, I've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I was diagnosed around 2008, if I remember correctly. I was working at the university at the time, and there was an event at my house with my ex where he had had a seizure in bed because his blood sugar had gotten so low. And that kind of triggered a whole series of emotional reactions, and it really heightened my anxiety to the worst it's ever been in my life. And I had gone through my whole life, like 30 years or so, without knowing that I had an anxiety disorder. Like, I knew that there was something that had happened when I was younger. The whole life that I lived before I was adopted. I knew that had impacted me, but I didn't quite understand how it impacted me. So in 2008, there was a flare up, as I call it, and I ended up being off work for an extended period of time. And when you're off work for an extended period of time and you have a professional type job, my benefits kicked in for long-term disability, and that comes after about 2 months, right? So when you go on long-term disability, the insurance company, much like HR, is kind of the opinion that they want you back to work as fast as possible, and off their books, essentially, because they start paying your salary or a portion of your salary, and they don't want to do that. So they put you through your paces. They put your doctor through through the paces. There was so much documentation and so much stuff that was needed, justifications for this, that, and the other thing. But the good news was that I had some very expensive testing done. So they've eliminated ADHD and autism, and arrived at generalized anxiety disorder. There was some talk even back then, something similar to a PTSD from childhood. However, that's still not really recognized as a thing. They just had made a note that there had been some trauma that I had experienced, right? With the whole parents dying when you're young and looking after your younger sibling and being ripped from your home. And I will do a video one day, specifically just going through my early childhood. But so there was some experience there with some trauma, right? And so they had noted that. But I was diagnosed officially with generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder. Major depressive disorder. And the two kind of go hand in hand. So anybody who has anxiety and depression, they kind of understand this already. When your anxiety gets too much to handle, you start to get depressed. At least that's how it works for me. And depression, of course, can manifest itself in all sorts of different ways. A lot of times it's unseen and it goes unnoticed for a long period of time until suddenly you just kind of like wake up one day and you realize that you're living in a depression den, and and then you don't know how to get out of it. And then it kind of just makes it all worse, right? So I am in the process right now of having a flare-up of my anxiety disorder. I don't know how bad it's going to get, and I'm hoping I can kind of cut it off before it gets too bad. One of the things through this very expensive testing that I got the benefit of was some very expensive therapy. And they did really teach me a lot of stuff about cognitive behavior therapy, which I know some people are pushing back on now, but I've always found it really, really good for me. It works almost all of the time. Recognizing when my anxiety is out of control and recognizing when it's ramping up has been very key for me to be able to manage my day-to-day life. I still do have executive function problems. Yes, I still do have bouts of depression. yes, like those things still happen to me, but I don't or haven't really considered my anxiety disorder at the level of which I would be considered disabled. Okay. However, as I'm getting older or as things are changing and as my life is having new and additional stresses, I am finding that I think I need some form of accommodation, because I'm struggling pretty hard right now. And I may seem very like articulate and relaxed right now, but I'm not. I'm holding it in. And I've tried this video like 4 or 5 times already. And I have notes. So I had to make notes. I don't normally make notes for videos like this. I just want to talk about them. I just like to talk off the top of my head, but I made some notes here to collect my thoughts because dealing with it's a little different. So anyways, what I was saying was I was off for a little bit of time and they sent me for some expensive testing and expensive therapy and I got better. And then I was able to return to work. And it wasn't a big deal to me. It was like, okay, that was a period of my life. I got through it. We're over it. We climbed the mountain. We're a fighter. Yeah, success story, right? But then it's something that I have to deal with every single day for the rest of my life. And understanding, though, remember, getting the diagnosis was very, very key for me because it really helps me understand what my issues are and how to work around them or how to fix them. In most cases, I just work around them, right? Again, so I don't consider myself disabled or at a level of disability. However, I am finding now that I'm going to start to need some form of accommodation. And I don't know if it's just a situational thing, like with my work. I've definitely described in other videos how horrible my work environment is right now for me. I have 2 layers of toxic bosses or that are to me. Again, they may not be toxic to other people, but they definitely are to me. So I don't have any kind of managerial support at my work because my boss and then her boss have no interest in anything to help me out. They're setting me up. They set me up for failure. They are essentially, I feel abused. Whether or not they actually are legally abusing me is a different story, but I definitely am not having a good time and I need to leave. And then the job search thing is not going well either, right? Because we're how many months in and I've had 1 interview and I've gotten like 3 different rejections and the rest have not ever heard back from. So that's not going very well. And as spring kind of is here and ramping up, I know that eventually they're going to force me to return to office. So again, this wasn't supposed to be a work rant thing. I want to talk about my anxiety disorder. So when it comes to work, I have never put anything on paper about my disability. I have talked to my bosses. So when I get a boss, I do sit them down in our first one-on-one. And, you know, when you're introducing yourselves and I say, listen, I have an anxiety disorder. This is how it impacts me. And this is how it impacts my work. I haven't had to like go in and get accommodations or anything yet. And this is what I tell them. And they're usually very good about, you know, helping me with, you know, if I get stressed out about workload or helping me like, you know, go take 5 minutes. I have my previous boss is absolutely fantastic because he can hear it in the tone of my voice and he will message me or he will just take a breath. And he's perfect that way because sometimes I don't recognize it, but there's a tonality shift that happens in my voice, apparently, that he can tell. And I think for him, why he's so good with this is his wife has anxiety problems. So he's kind of used to navigating what that's like and what it means. So it hasn't really interfered with my work since when it did interfere with my work. However, it's interfering right now with my personal life and it did before too. So, as COVID started happening and we started going into lockdown, I had a very hard time adjusting. One of the things that I had used to cope with my anxiety is if I was getting into a checking cycle, and that's when I would just like compulsively recheck my work over and over and over again. I was able to get up, go away from my desk, go talk to somebody, for like 5 minutes and then come back and kind of clear that. That was my coping mechanism for that, was to just separate myself physically. But we went into lockdown, and when we went into lockdown, everything with the ex and I wasn't good, so I lost that ability to do that. The other thing that I had the ability to do when I was in office was I could see the micro expressions that people have, and I would analyze those. So I could tell if somebody was a friend or a foe based on their facial expressions. And I relied on that very heavily to find what I would consider safe. Because remember, I do have that whole childhood trauma thing that always is in the back of my mind. So it feeds into my anxiety disorder, where I actually see people as threats sometimes. And sometimes legitimately they are. There's people in this world that don't want to see you succeed. I know, it's a shocker, right? Not everybody's nice, and some people are pretty bitchy. And understanding who those people are is very key for me to be able to navigate, albeit poorly, the politics that come with working in a corporate environment. I'm not good at them. I'm not good at them at all. But being able to see people's facial expressions really helped me with that, at least a little bit. So the work from home, the isolation, it really, really made things pretty tough for me for about a year. And I struggled a lot. I didn't have somebody I could like just go talk to. My ex was sitting, just beyond the wall. That was weird. And it was a time. I'm getting a Snapchat. We're going to ignore it. But it was a time. But eventually I managed to get used to it. I started to be able to rely on sound. So I could hear tonality in people, the shift in tonality in people's voices, and that helped me cope. And then I got better at it. And then as I got better at dealing with that aspect, my productivity went up. And now I 100% don't want to go back to an office. Now, I will say that it's if the place is local, I have no problems going into an office. It's fine. It's necessary. My issue right now is, one, this environment is kind of toxic for me, my current work, because with the management, it's not good for me to be anywhere near those people. And I prefer to just do my work and log off at the end of the day and be done with it. I don't get to actually log off at the end of the day. My brain just constantly talks about this and churns it over in my head over and over and over again. So I did eventually adjust, of course, but during that time period, I also isolated more. So I was staying in one room in my apartment, and just one room. And I had a bathroom, ensuite bathroom. So I stayed in the master bedroom, and that became, there's not a better word for it than depression den. I stopped cleaning it so I wouldn't vacuum. I only pulled the trash out, right? So there wasn't foodstuffs hanging around. There wasn't a lot of garbage hanging around. There was some, but not a lot. And the part that I don't really want to admit, but I'm going to do now because I swore to myself I'd be honest in these videos, is I even stopped taking care of myself. Like, I stopped bathing. That is hard for me to admit, but I'm struggling again with that, where I'm going probably too long of periods between showers, and I have a problem actually getting into the shower. I don't know what the block is. I don't know why. I feel great when I come out, but getting in there is difficult for me right now, and I'm not really sure why, and I'm doing a lot of things to avoid it again. So back, when I lived in Toronto, that was a thing that was happening all the time. The depression was just so big, and I felt so hopeless. And then when my ex lost his job in February of 2023, it kind of expedited the move for me, because there was no way I was going to be able to financially take care of him and I. And honestly, if we're not together, why would I be taking care of him anyway, right? So I had to move. And when I moved, I left the depression den. I didn't leave it as it was. I cleaned it. I had developed a carpet beetle infestation, which, again, is horrible. So it's not carpet beetles. They come in from outside, but they like to eat on. They feed on carpet, but they feed on natural fibers, and pet dander, and pet fur, and human hair, and yarn. And what are my hobbies? Or what do I have? I have 2 cats. I have hair that sheds constantly because it's curly. And I was not cleaning my apartment, so I wasn't dusting or vacuuming. And with cats, again with cats, so lots of cat hair, and I knit as a hobby, so a lot of yarn. And it was a perfect breeding ground for them, and they're gone now, so I didn't leave the X with a carpet beetle infestation. I didn't bring them here, so it's all fine now. And I have hardwood now, so that kind of helps, but they'll still live in furniture, so you gotta be careful. Anyway, they happen, and I don't necessarily think that they're because I was dirty. Oh no, actually, let's go back. It's 100% because I stopped cleaning. Because if I was able to vacuum the floor and get the cat hair out of there and keep my skin from falling off, because they also like human dander, then it wouldn't be as big of an issue. So it's embarrassing for me to admit that. Oh my God. Do I edit this out? I might edit that out. We'll see. If you hear this part, it's because I decided not to. And probably I shouldn't, because I wanted this to be 100% honest. And the truth is that I know that I'm not alone. And I know that a lot of people struggle with this as well. And this is one of those things that goes a lot of times unsaid. So that's the reality. The reality was I was so depressed, I stopped taking care of my environment, taking care of myself, and got a carpet beetle infestation as a result. It is what it is. So big deal, right? Like, how does all this, why are we even talking about this? Well, some of the signs are starting to come back, right? Like I'm having, like I said, I'm having problems showering again, and I haven't swept in a week. And my carpets need to be vacuumed, the little rugs that I have. And I'm having problems doing that. I'm spending all of my time just obsessing about work and management at work and return to office and how I'm going to navigate that and the cost of a lawyer if I need one and it just goes on. Like, there's just so many. Oh, and then job search, and then relationships with my family, and then the fact that I don't have friends that aren't like far away or like internet friends. Like, I don't have people in my life, and it's just one of those things that like I need someone to help me put the wheels on my air conditioner that I bought that's sitting right there. Who can help me? I have to rely on my nephew-in-law and my niece. And my nephew-in-law is very, no, she's busy a lot to me, which makes me not want to reach out to either of them. And I don't know if she's saying something to him or what's going on there, but I really do feel like I'm a burden and that I've overstayed my welcome and that I need to separate again myself. But there I am, separating myself from the only family that's like within 20 minutes of me. Like, my mom's 45 minutes away, right? And my sister won't talk to me. And so I basically just have my mom and my niece. See, here we go again. This is gonna make me cry. I have just, oh, anyway. This is what my life is right now. So getting back to the work thing and how it impacts work and how anxiety disorder impacts work. I've never needed accommodation before, but I'm starting to think I do. That drive, that 3.5-hour drive, I can do it if it's planned. I can't do it if it's not planned. Yesterday, they wanted me to come in the office. I didn't find out officially until after I was supposed to already be in the office. And my boss really sold me down the river to the director because she... Oh, that's a story. I don't want to tell it right now either, but basically, she's a C word. See you next Tuesday, I think is what the kids call it nowadays. She's one of those, and she's nasty. And I have now proof of this because she didn't tell me I needed to come in, but then made it seem like I disobeyed an order, right? So now I'm in shit. Whatever. Just whatever. Write me up, package me out. Let's just be done with this place. I desperately need to be out of there. Anyway, but that's the kind of thing, right? Where now I'm stewing over it, and then I called in sick today because I can't get it out of my brain because it's in my anxiety now, and I'm just out of my mind, and I'm constantly churning it over and over and over again, and all the different things that happened beforehand and then afterwards, and how I wasn't there, and my brain is racing, and now my mouth is starting to go fast because my brain is jumping. Thoughts are just firing, and I've got the negative, self-talk in the background that's going on, and there's no peace in there at all, and so I can't sleep. And then how am I supposed to be able to focus to drive? They don't give a crap, right? So what are my protections from this? I know that I'm under stress right now because of a lot of stuff going on in my life. And it's impacting my ability to work. So I think I need to actually start formally, start the process to formally get some accommodation at work. And that's hard for me because while I have this disorder, I've never considered it a disability. Yes, it impacts everything, but I never felt I was disabled as a result of it. But I'm starting to think that I do need some form of accommodation. I don't think they'll give it to me. I have to convince my doctor, who I've been very firm that this is not a disability with, that it is now becoming one. And yeah. So I think I'm going to start that formal process. I'm going to try anyway. We're going to try and get some workplace accommodation. And ideally that workplace accommodation would say that I have to stay remote. 1 day a month. I'd be okay as long as it's planned. As long as it's planned in advance. Like, give me a week or two, give me 2 weeks so that I can prepare for coming in, so that I can do all of the things necessary to be able to get proper sleep, get my mind ready, so that I can actually focus on a 3.5 hour drive, 3.5 hours one way. I can't do it when my anxiety is like this. Like, I need to go to the grocery store, but I can't go in my car right now. I need to get my glasses adjusted, but I can't drive there right now. And I don't want to have to pay for an Uber. I might get my groceries delivered. I do have a subscription for Instacart, so I may take advantage of that. But those things aren't ideal because it's costing me extra money, and money is tight right now. So I have an anxiety disorder that I need to work around that costs me money in order to work around. Oh, it's just... I guess this is life, and everybody deals with this. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people who deal with this type of issue deal with this. So I know I'm not alone in this. I know I'm not. And for all 7 of you out there who watch these videos, if any of you struggle with the whole executive function, do you not feed yourself? Do you forget to feed yourself? Do you have problems getting in the shower? Do you have problems getting out of bed every day? Do you have those problems? Can you let me know if you have those problems? I know that other people are out there that have those problems as well. I know I'm not alone globally, but I feel alone right now. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to try to get some accommodations through my doctor. My good news is that my doctor in Toronto is keeping me on roster, which means he will be able to treat me virtually or remotely, basically over the phone, for a lot of stuff. So at first he wasn't sure, but I did call today and they said yes, and that they'll continue to treat me virtually. So I am going to talk about my anxiety medication, that I need to go back on it. He's probably going to order blood tests. I'll see if he can get the referral here that's local so that I don't have to drive there to have my blood taken. And maybe I'll talk to him about the swelling in my legs. And yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I have for a video today. Talked long enough. It's been 20-something minutes. I'm rambling at this point. I don't know. We'll see if we can get through this. We'll see. I hope you guys have a good day.